What is up, everybody? Hope you're having a lovely day. I'm joined today once again by the great Theo with a microphone.
Yes.
Yes, due to popular demand, we have finally sorted this thing out, so hopefully audio will not be an issue anymore. Do let us know how we can improve the podcast, though, because we do want this to be a recurring thing and something that, you know, a part of the channel that is always there and always present, and we hope to do more episodes in the future. And so we want to improve as much as possible. So today, the main topic of discussion, of course, is the Oscars.
Yeah.
Just in general, we want to talk through the nominations. We want to talk through who we think will win and stuff like that. Now, there are, of course, a couple of caveats and disclaimers to be made beforehand, which is that we have not seen every single Best Picture nominee.
Okay, so I've seen Belfast. We've both seen Belfast.
We have not seen Coda.
No.
We've seen Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
We've not seen Drive My Car. And we've seen everything else.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the fact that the Oscars this year have decided to omit film editing, makeup and hairstyling, original score, production design, sound...
Wait, score as well?
Yeah.
What the... Right.
Sound, documentary short subject, animated short, and live action short will be edited out of the live broadcast, and may show the highlights of the most emotional moments. We've got all things going off here.
Yeah, but wow, so that's not good.
Yes,
that's not good. And certainly something that, I mean, obviously part of the reason I think is because they want to make sure the Oscar it runs smoothly, fast, you know. And
well, they're trying to get more people to watch the Oscars, and this is something they've been trying to do for the past.
Because the ratings have gone down.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
2 decades.
Yeah, it's not been great.
I think, firstly, who's to decide what categories
what stays and what
worth,
goes exactly.
You know, film editing, production design, makeup, hairstyling.
These are all score. These are all like vital parts of the filmmaking process, and you're not doing them the honor that they deserve. Because you know, imagine, oh my Christ, imagine, you know, you work so hard, and you know your mates are getting their time on TV to fucking give their speeches and stuff, and you're not. And I just think that's not particularly accurate, and they haven't done it justice.
It does a disservice
to their work.
Anyone who wants to get into the sort of the film industry
in these departments.
In these departments, because it devalues the effort that they actually put in.
But that's how we feel about that, I guess. But let's talk about some of these nominees. So animated feature film. I don't know how many of these you've seen, but there's Encanto, there's Flea, there's Luca, there's The Mitchells versus the Machines, and there's Raya and the Last Dragon, which is my favorite one in this category. I think Raya should win. I don't know if it will win, but I certainly hope that it does. What are your thoughts? Do you know any of these films, or have you seen any of these films?
I'm trying to pull up the list right now. Animated feature. To be honest, I haven't actually watched any of those animated films.
Okay, well, Raya's great, is all I'll say. Technical categories. Costume design. We've got Cruella, Cyrano, June, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. Now I'm just going to start off here by saying one of the greatest compliments that I can give to Nightmare Alley is that a lot of the clothes that they wear, I think, like, that is so cool. Like, I wish I lived in that time so I could look cool in these, you know, outfits and stuff. Obviously, Cruella being a fashion film has a strong chance of winning. Who do you think is taking the cake in this category?
I thought some of the things that they did with June was
excellent,
phenomenal.
The Atreides armor,
yes. Well, even Timothée Chalamet wearing his sort of jacket.
Oh, with the collar. Yeah.
I thought those were nice touches in terms of giving it a real stylized and traditional sense. You know, they had bagpipes in the film, so they clearly were taking a lot of the design from traditional clothing, mixing it with new designs.
Absolutely.
And all sorts. I thought West Side Story was very interesting, considering I watched the old one, the original one, recently
for the first time.
And one thing I noticed was the costume design. A lot of the time, you couldn't really distinguish between the two gangs. They were wearing lots of different colours. Yeah. And some of the sharks were wearing red, and some of the jets were wearing red, and there was a bit of a mix. Whereas with the West Side Story, reimagining, they definitely decided to take more distinctive routes in terms of how they were going to dress the two gangs. And then obviously Rachel Zegler was wearing some amazing dresses that they've obviously redesigned.
And I think with that film as well, because we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about a lot of these films in detail, the colors were just so vibrant and beautiful, and that's something that I think has been missing from a lot of Spielberg's films ever since really the 2000s. You know, with Minority Report, Munich, and then obviously into the likes of Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, The Post. Obviously, Ready Player One was pretty vibrant, but obviously, you know, I think we've missed that old school kind of blown up, vibrant, super cinematic, colorful Spielberg, and we're going back to that with West Side Story, which brings me on to cinematography, which is one of the best categories, one of the most fun to talk about.
Wait, before we move on, can I just ask, which one do you want to win? Which one do you think will win?
Costume design.
Yes.
Look, I think it will go to Nightmare Alley. No, it will go to Cruella. Yeah. I think it'll go to Cruella, but I want June to win because I think it was the most amount of work that someone had to do with their hands. Yeah. Right? What about you?
Oh, no, I agree. I think June, one of the things about June which is so incredible is how Denny worked with all the departments, and you can really see a level of detail and craft going into each decision. So I really think June put in a lot of effort there.
So cinematography, we've got June, Greg Fraser; Nightmare Alley, Dan Lauston; The Power of the Dog, Ari Wegner; Tragedy of Macbeth, Bruno Del Bonell. Who, fun fact, I remember actually going back to when I was a couple years ago, 2018, when we were reacting, because we used to react to the Oscar nominations. And, Bruno Del Bonell shot The Ballad of Buster Scruggs for the Coen brothers, and I lost my shit when he didn't get nominated. I might insert a little clip of me losing my shit, but yeah, there we go.
Cold War.
Bruno Del Bonell, please.
The Favorite.
Oh, I don't think it's not going to get nominated.
Never Look Away.
Yeah, it's not going to get nominated. What are these films?
And A Star Is Born.
What is Never Look Away? What the fuck? What? Bruno Del Bonell shot the best looking film of the year. No nomination. It's just the Oscars now. God. You know, I thought they changed when they gave it to Deakins, but... So he's finally come back with Joel Coen, nominated for Macbeth, and Janusz Kaminski for West Side Story. What a fucking stacked list of nominees.
This is the most competitive and stacked category of the Oscars this year, and it's incredibly inspiring, actually, that this is the sort of the talent.
This is the standard.
Yeah, this is the standard. You know, if you compare this to some of the other categories, sort of the leading man category this year, I think this is the most stacked
Everybody
category,
here is firing on all cylinders. And we'll get to Power of the Dog and talk about that in detail in our thoughts, because we are very opinionated about that film. But yeah, so in this case, who do you want to win? Who do you think will win?
You know, I was a huge fan of The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yes, I know.
I thought
brilliant work.
I thought if Shakespeare was alive, that he would have been proud of that film and would have respected how they shot it visually. It matched a lot of the sort of traditional stage type performances. So yeah, I think, and West Side Story was phenomenal as well. This is probably the hardest decision, but I would have to say, Tragedy of Macbeth was...
You want to win,
yes.
But who do you think will win? I think we have the same answers.
Yeah, I think it would be June.
Yeah, I think it was going to. And I sort of have a lot to say about this. I feel like Denny has a very specific style in which, you know, he will set up nice lighting setups, you know, compositions and stuff, and let the actors kind of exist and work within that beautiful, you know, world. And obviously Greg Fraser does a great job of that, as did Roger Deakins, obviously Bradford Young, and, you know, Denny's other films. But West Side Story has to win. For me, it has to win, because it's just, as I said, you know, before, Spielberg and what Janusz Kaminski did in this film, like it was like the camera was like a paintbrush. You know, the way it moved with the people, that the lighting is so beautiful, and within that lighting, within those compositions, the camera still kind of goes from close-ups out to wides, out to mids, and it's just this, you know, beautiful
how they were
dance.
Able to pay homage to the original, because the originals, the cinematography in the original is incredible.
Yeah.
But reimagine it in a way, so there's a scene where they walk into the final fight and the shadows.
Oh
of
my
the
god!
two
Yes,
gangs.
yes.
It's just some fantastic stuff.
I also got to say that there's one shot in that film which is probably one of my favorite shots of last year, where, and everyone who knows me knows that I would love this kind of shot, which is it starts in a puddle of water, and then you think, oh, this is the actual thing, and then someone steps on it, and then it's like, oh shit, it's a puddle of water, and then it goes up to the actual, it's not the reflection, and it's that kind of stuff. Now,
well, let's talk about that. What are some of your from these films? What are your favorite shots?
God, I mean, with Tragedy of Macbeth, it's just like everything just looks like a painting. Everything just looks larger than life, and
well, one of my favorite shots from Tragedy of Macbeth was you think it's a spotlight, and then all of a sudden, Banquo walks in and starts doing this sort of soliloquy, and that was for me was like a really clever way of changing the atmosphere, the mise en scène of the scene, and making it feel very stark but very interesting.
I mean, again, Power of the Dog, I would say in that regard, works brilliantly, looks brilliantly as a classic conventional Western. There's nothing that jumps out immediately that jumps out to me about that. It's just, it's not Robert Richardson on Django Unchained. It's not Bruno Narbonell on Ballad of Buster Scruggs or Deakins on True Grit. It's a good Western. With Nightmare Alley, what a team up between Dan Lawson and Del Toro. I think every scene, again, pay attention. I think
what they nailed with the light,
the light, the colors, the composition, and the camera moves, brilliant as well. And of course, I guess with Dune, I'm trying to think now what my favorite shot is. There's obviously the shot of the Atreides ship opening up as everyone is a silhouette of all the characters as they're about to walk off into Arrakis.
Shot of Timothy with it sort of holding onto the ship as the worm takes over.
With Josh Brolin, it's just, I mean...
And then anything to do with the, what are they called, the dragonfly copter?
Oh, those things. Just
That's
excellent.
Incredible.
So that's cinematography. All right, so let's move on to a couple more technical categories before we do acting and directing.
Yes.
So editing, okay? I'm not going to beat around the bush. There's only one winner here. I don't even need to mention the other ones. It's Joe Walker for Dune. Dune. Yep, Dune should win. Dune will win, I think. VFX. So it's Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man. Right, so obviously, shout out to No Time to Die, because they did some great job with that. It's one of those films where you don't realize how much VFX there actually are, how much practical effects there actually are. So great, but Dune's going to win. VFX. Come on now. Dune's going to win.
Can we also talk about how Spider-Man No Way Home has been put into this category?
Yeah.
What? I really did not find their VFX to be
it's unfinished, right? They changed certain shots a couple weeks.
Some of the lighting,
release.
some of the composition in terms of the lighting, you really felt the green screen.
Yeah.
You really felt that they weren't in that environment.
The depth of field was a bit off, and stuff like that. So absolutely.
No discredit to these guys who worked on it. I think it would probably be
they were rushed.
John Watts.
No, I feel bad because they were rushed. I read articles where they said they were working until after the release of the film, and I think no one should have to do that. I know it's the norm now in the industry, but I think that there's a lot of you shouldn't have to be forced to kind of. I know it's not forced, but you should.
I believe June here. I think June may be coming home with a
lot of technical stuff. So sound, again, I think June will win for sound. Although, special shout out to, I think, mine and your favorite sound moment of last year in No Time to Die, which is the bullets on the Aston Martin. Mm-hmm. That was one of those moments where I was like, my God, they have elevated the scene with the sound design.
And they constantly did blur out sound effects when
it gets blown up, right?
Being blown up, and that was really effective drawing the audience in. I thought that was incredible.
Production design. Again, Dune, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, Tragedy of Macbeth, West Side Story. You'll be amazed to find out how much the Tragedy of Macbeth is actually CGI. So much. It was a production design working with cinematographer, working with VFX to craft these worlds. That's really impressive. But who do you think will take this one? Who do you want to take it? Who do you think will take it?
Well, I think Nightmare Alley should have a shout out here.
Yeah.
Because they created a really clever gothic underworld.
Yeah.
I think again it may have to go to Dune.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of the walls in Dune, the attention to detail in terms of the scriptures
Yeah.
and all of that sort of thing.
It's
was
just
amazing.
on a different level. Okay, so music. First off, let's go with original song. I've only like heard one of these properly, which is No Time to Die, and I think No Time to Die will win. What do you think?
Original score, sorry.
Song.
Original song.
As in the Billie Eilish No Time to Die.
Yeah, I think I can't really remember the others. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So moving on to original score. Don't Look Up, June, Encanto, Parallel Mothers, and Power of the Dog. Once again, I think Hans Zimmer's walking away with this one for June. Not a lot of competition in this department. So what do you think, Hans Zimmer?
Yeah.
We're good with that. All right, so that now we can move on to talking about writing. So original and adapted screenplay. So for best adapted screenplay, we have Coda, Drive My Car, June, The Lost Daughter, and The Power of the Dog.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to get it? I think Power of the Dog's winning this one.
Power of the Dog. Okay.
Yeah.
I think The Lost Daughter. I obviously haven't read the book. But what Maggie Gyllenhaal did there was create an almost what you call not quite slow cinema, but it is pretty slow. But it's a real well crafted and slow revealing thriller about the sort of the psychology of this mother, and I think that screenplay works fantastically well and provides a satisfying ending to what was a quite unnerving and mysterious plot.
Absolutely. So you think Lost Daughter will take it? Maggie Gyllenhaal's walking
I don't
away
know
with
if
an
she'll
Oscar?
take it, but that's my shout out. There.
Okay. So original screenplay, we've got Belfast by Kenneth Branagh, Don't Look Up, we've got King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and Worst Person in the World. I want Licorice Pizza
For
to
me,
win.
yeah, Licorice Pizza.
What a movie. What a fucking movie, man.
I'm surprised. Paul Thomas Anderson, he's had many Oscar noms, but, I don't think he gets as much as he deserves in a way.
Not at all.
In terms of the
Not
credit. PTA, what he did with Licorice Pizza, creating a whole world of characters, all with serious
and
depth.
also ingratiating them with real world people.
Yeah.
Like the character that Bradley Cooper plays, I believe is actually a real person.
And it's
stuff like that.
it's so funny to watch. I remember the audience really enjoyed themselves when in the cinema.
Such a brilliant film.
It was a great
honestly.
joy. I'd also shout out the Worst Person in the World, because there's some fantastic scenes that I'm struggling to pronounce his name, but that these two people have crafted. So I think that would be my second shout out there. Belfast,
Good, it's fine.
was pretty solid, and Don't Look Up. To be honest, Adam McKay. This is probably one of the.
He's just doing Adam McKay.
Well, I
In my
preferred
opinion.
Adam McKay's other films.
Yeah.
Don't Look Up. I didn't actually find too funny.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't meant to be, but the satire did. There was some funny improv from Jonah Hill, but yeah, that's where I stand.
Moving on to acting. So actress in a supporting role: Jessie Buckley for Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst Power of the Dog, and Onjanu Ellis for King Richard.
So my vote here is a clear one. Ariana DeBose for West Side Story.
Excellent performance.
She does some incredible acting in West Side Story. There's a moment in church where she holds for a split second and then sort of pops up her eyes as she's being told some information. I thought that was an incredible reaction.
Yeah.
And real subtle details that.
I guess the best compliment that I can give her is that it's one of those performances that just feels alive.
Yes.
Right? It just feels.
Well, yeah, she's a real a force in
Yeah.
the film, and you get a real sense of her character. And I think that was actually one of the areas that the reimagined Virgin delves into further. Actually, is her character.
Okay, so
I think she stood
actress
out.
in a leading role: Jessica Chastain, Isa Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman, Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz, Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart in Spencer. This is a Kristen Stewart one for me, I have to say.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think she did a fantastic job.
Really carries
my
that film.
review for Spencer was Kristen Stewart is playing Princess Diana in The Shining.
Yeah.
She was sort of losing her mind, but it really worked for her character, and the sort of unsettling, disturbed nature of the sort of big building that she was walking around, and the whole family, all the eyes were on her. You could really sense her distress, and also her care for her children. I think that would be my vote for that one.
Actor in a supporting role: Kieran Hines, Belfast; Troy Kotzer in Coda; Jesse Plemons, Power of the Dog; J.K. Simmons, Being the Ricardos; and Cody Smith McPhee, Power of the Dog. I think it's a Power of the Dog one. I think it's probably Jesse Plemons, in my opinion. Again, we'll talk about that film when we get to Best Picture, but what do you think here?
I think Kieran Hines did a great job in Belfast. Jesse Plemons. No, for me, I'd say Kieran Hines.
Okay.
I'd say Kieran Hines for this role. I think there's a fantastic few lines that he gives when he's in hospital, talking to the boy in Belfast.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic scene and definitely something that deserves a nod and a win.
Actor in a leading role: Javier Bardem, Being the Ricardos; Benedict Cumberbatch, Power of the Dog; Andrew Garfield, Tick, Tick, Boom; Will Smith, King Richard; and Denzel in Tragedy of Macbeth.
I have two for this: Will Smith and Denzel Washington.
Okay.
For me, I think Will Smith does.
I think Will Smith is going to win.
Well, I think he's the favourite.
He's the favourite.
I think Andrew Garfield will have his time, but not with Tick, Tick, Boom.
Yeah.
I think Benedict Cumberbatch was fantastic as well, but
Andrew Garfield, I think one thing I have to comment is that Tick, Tick, Boom is obviously, we both know that I don't love the film. I think it's fine. Obviously, he's the best part of the movie. He's excellent. Said it's almost he should almost be getting a best supporting actor for Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah.
And obviously in 2016 he was a Hacksaw Ridge nominated, but also he did Silence, and these are two of the greatest performances of the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he were to ever win an Oscar, it should have been for one of those. I think this is Will Smith's year. I think he's finally going to get it. This role, I feel like was kind of made for him.
What's interesting though is this role that Will Smith did was very, very much in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He's
played real people multiple.
Yeah, he's done it multiple
before,
times. Yeah. He did it with Concussion. He's done it. I Am Legend, where he's not a real person there, but he's a doctor or someone who's obsessed with something, and he does that thing with his eyes. And maybe you can play a clip of a few of those scenes where he cries and his eyes pop.
The Will Smith eyes.
Yeah, he does that class, and I very much felt it was similar to what Tom Hanks did in The News of the World. It just felt very comfortable for Will Smith to he puts on an accent, but he nails it, and so there's no real debating that. I just think this year the actor in the leading role categories is a little bit less stacked than I would want it.
Absolutely.
A little bit less competitive than I'd want
just
it.
a bit of a throwback. Do you remember when there was a year where it was Casey Affleck, Manchester by the Sea, Ryan Gosling, La La Land, what was it, Andrew Garfield, Hacksaw Ridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, I can't remember who else was nominated that year, but also I think the next year, the 2 years after, it was Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Kaluuya, Get Out, Gary Oldman, Darkest Hour, Daniel Day-Lewis in Phantom Thread, like that. Is a stacked category. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even a couple of years ago with Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, and Adam Driver and DiCaprio, But anyway, moving on to directing, we've got Kenneth Branagh for Belfast. We've got Rizuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, which of course we have not seen. PTA, Licorice Pizza. Power of the Dog, Jane Campion. West Side Story, Steven Spielberg. Who do you think should win and who do you think will win? Because it's not the same person.
I want Paul Thomas Anderson to win.
I want Paul Thomas Anderson to win. Or Spielberg.
And then I think Spielberg will win.
I don't think so. I think they're going to give it to Jane Campion for Power of the Dog. Netflix has been pushing her that's it, and they're really going to push it, I think. And I think she's going to get it. Personally, again, we'll get into Power of the Dog. I think it's the
Can
most
I just caveat
overrated
this
film.
by saying I haven't seen Drive My Car, so a lot of this is without that one key crucial bit of knowledge, info. But I think Licorice Pizza, what PTA did in quite a long film actually, really kept everyone engaged for the whole time. And Steven Spielberg is phenomenal in this film.
I think he does some of his best work ever in this film.
Yeah. Although I think in terms of bringing out the acting performances, one of the few criticisms with the Spielberg
West Side Story.
West Side Story is that some of the chemistry wasn't quite there between mainly
The lead,
Tony,
yeah.
and I can't remember.
Rachel Zegler.
And
Rachel Zegler was good.
Whereas PTA knows how to direct actors.
Oh my god!
And he pulls
does he
a fantastic performance out.
He also, I think, out of every director alive, perhaps this is someone who knows how to film performances. As in, he knows exactly where the camera goes for this kind of acting. Do you know what I mean?
Listen,
Like,
this is Cooper Hoffman's first
ever performance,
film, and
He
the
just
performance that he
nails it.
brings is just fantastic. And I think I'm surprised he wasn't nominated for anything.
He should have been, and I saw as Alana Haim should have been nominated for best. No, fuck that. Alana Haim should have won for best.
I'm surprised it hasn't taken more.
Also, just another thing is Jodie Comer for Last Duel. I know you're not a fan of The Last Duel, but she's so good in that film.
Yeah.
She's so good, and she didn't even get a nomination, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think Ridley Scott should have been involved.
PTA has to take a serious amount of credit for what he can do with
as a writer, as a director,
with actors, young actors that potentially don't have a necessarily long career. So I think what he did was incredible, and I think that's where I'd want to.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Finally, Best Picture. Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Let's talk about Power of the Dog, because I think it's going to win. And you and I have talked about this.
No.
I think it is the most overrated film made
no.
in last year. It's not that good.
Well, is there an obsession with going for sort of slow burn thrillers?
No, I think it's just the track record, that the stuff that it's won recently, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think they've been really, really pushing this film for so much.
For me, my vote is Licorice Pizza, actually.
For best,
now that we've
that
been
one to
talking
win.
about it, yeah. I think June is my, it's close second, and then West Side Story is third. And those are my three choices.
I am actually going to agree with that, because for me, June is not the most June movie that's going to June, because June Part 2 is going to out June. So we'll wait for June Part 2 to come and win. West Side Story, it's a great film, but Spielberg already has everything you could ever want. So he needs to take a seat, take a back seat and give people a chance to compete. Nightmare Alley, I loved. I think I like it more than Licorice Pizza, but Guillermo del Toro already has all the Oscars. He's gotten a Best Director. He's got a Best Picture. Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't. How the fuck? Right? Because There Will Be Blood lost to the No Country for Old Men, remember? Mm-hmm. So he didn't win.
No, but I think what Paul Thomas Anderson's doing here is he's written this script, and he's directed and used younger actors.
He's the cinematographer too.
He's the cinematographer. He's pulled all of these things together and just done what he does best. And this is one of my favourite films that he's produced. So I really believe that it's time for him to receive the credit he deserves. And I agree with what you said about June. It's gonna get more Juned up in the coming years.
Completely. So so if you had to put money on it, if you were actually betting on Best Picture, I'm gonna put my money on Power of the Dog. I'm sorry, but I am, because even though I really think the movie's so fucking overrated, and it's so overrated, it's a good film and it's tremendously acted.
I'll be watching and
but
I'll be praying
for
Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, I want Licorice Pizza. It's just for me, but it's not gonna happen. I think it's just a thank you kind of nomination.
Yep.
But anyway, so those were our thoughts on the Oscar nominations. Do you have any other final comments to kind of leave the audience with?
No, that's it.
So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this video of us just kind of discussing some of this year's kind of Oscar films.
Yeah, I know we rushed through it, but we feel like it's a good way to do it. It's more of a casual discussion rather than an in-depth delve.
But thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.